Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Here we have another update of the water culture violets. They've been doing extremely well. I brought a bunch of them directly under lights so that I can show you guys the progress with blooming because we're getting lots of blooms. So this is the one I showed you last week. This is a semi-mini, cool blue. Flowers still opening. Got a bunch here on the spike. Let me see, I think there's only one spike so far. Yep, just one spike, but that's fine. Next up we have, this is a semi-double blush. I think I also showed you this, and I was surprised to find a bunch of little blooms starting. And you can see we've got a little spike there, a little one there and there, and let me see where else. Do we got any in here? I think that's it, just those three. But as you can see, they've grown that much in a week, so they are definitely getting up there. And again, this is the one that was originally in water culture for a while, and I had it, away from lights and no food, all that sort of stuff, just kind of existing. I decided to move it to moss for a while, just kind of stalled out. So I said, all right, let me bring it back. And I put it back to where it's the happiest in water culture again. And as you can see, it's getting ready. It's getting ready to open up. These blooms are beautiful. Just wait. I'm going to keep doing updates on these guys because they're doing really, really well. And I want you to see the blooms on this one. I don't really see too many new roots, but again, these are the roots that we're used to and that actually grew in the water culture originally. So what I'm hypothesizing is that they grew as water roots originally, so I'm thinking that they have a memory and are functioning just as they need to in water culture once again, and I think that that's what's going on, and I think that's why it's blooming. Aside from the nice light that I have it under, and the feed that I'm giving it, and yeah, so I'm very excited about this. I can't wait for these blooms to open up. I'm thinking if this is how they look now, by next week, possibly I'll have some open blooms. So I'll show you next week. Anyway, semi-double pink. And the last one for the blooms, this one is, I call this one Purple Lightning. It's a very interesting, bloom. It's really, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. It's a mix of light and dark purple, except there are streaks through it. Not fantasy streaks. When this blooms, I'll show you. Because we got some spikes starting here. This one was recently put into water culture, maybe about a month, maybe a little less, but it took to it really, really well. I even got a couple of new little rootlets coming out of here. That's the lighter color roots that you can see back there. And it started to bud up a little bit. So obviously this plant likes it. So many of these, I'm telling you, so many of these violets really enjoy being in water culture. So yeah, this one's going to be another cool one to see. Very unique, and I haven't seen this around at all, except for where I found this one. I wonder if it's just a mutation. It might be. I'm not sure. I'll also do some research and find out once it blooms again. Anywho, so yeah, that's this one. The next thing I want to show you guys is this is a Romance, which is a beautiful variegated African violet, and it was in soil, and I don't like violets in soil, as you probably know by now. It started to get root rot. The soil, I never changed it out of the soil that it came in, so there was not a lot of aeration, very little perlite. It was very dense and moisture retaining, so by the time I realized it, I'm like, oh boy, now I have to fix the situation because I don't want to lose this plant. I think these leaves are just beautiful. They're not just variegated, they're pink variegated, and that's just amazing. So I had to cut everything off, and I had to cut part of the bottom of the stem because it was very mushy and it started to rot. So I just plopped and let the very bottom touch the water. See, there's hardly anything there, but we've got a root. That's what you're going to start to see if you ever have to do this and put your violet into water culture because there's an issue, a rotting issue. When you do place it, and you do keep moisture, keep the humidity up, because this plant, without any roots and with this many leaves, I didn't want to remove all the leaves and try to prop them because I have way too many plants here. So I just wanted to get this into water culture, and sure enough, we got our first root, and it's looking very healthy. It's nice and thick. And is that another one? That might be another one down there. So we're doing well, and this one will be completely fine. I'm not sure. It looks like some of this might still have some rot, so I may treat this with hydrogen peroxide, but I'll be very careful not to touch that root because I want that one root that I have to continue growing, and I want many more. But that's the best case scenario right here, is to have that beautiful root. It shows that the plant is trying to survive, and it will. I will guarantee it. I'll make sure it does. And this is romance. Beautiful, beautiful variegated African violet. So one thing I want to show you, a lot of ways that I start my water culture African violets, if I'm not transferring them from plants that I've received, purchased from soil grown plants, is I will water propagate the leaves, and as the roots and the plantlets grow and get larger, I will then move them, separate them, because a lot of times I put a lot of leaves together. I'll show you an example of that. This is a bunch of leaves that I'm propagating. I just put them all together, just throw them all together. I don't have any roots at all on these. It's fairly recent that I put them in here, but it saves space, and I know it works. I've done it millions of times at this point, but I put them all together, and then when they start getting roots and plantlets, I then separate them out and put them in their own water culture vessel. So here's a perfect example of this. This was one leaf propagation, and it was in with a bunch of other leaves, just like I just showed you. And you can see it's got some nice roots, completely water roots. These have never seen soil. And I have two, possibly more crowns. But I got this new vessel. It's not really a vase, it's just a bottle from a drink. And because this is such an awkward position, because it has, the full leaf is still attached, the mother leaf is still here, it's got a long petiole, the leaf stem, and the plantlets are at the very base. What I do is I'll put it in, make sure the roots are submerged, and kind of wedge it against the edge of the bottle. And you can see it holds pretty firm. So as long as those new leaves now are not submerged, it's going to start to grow very quickly. And also, because I have so many roots, I can fertilize and start giving it my African violet or hydroponic fertilizer. So that's one example, and here's another example. I think this is the same type of plant. It's a semi-double rosy eye, I believe. And look at this one. This one has a bunch. Let me move my hand because it's in the light. It has a bunch of crowns. Looks like possibly three crowns here. And the leaf kind of curled, so it's a very awkward position. So I have a different type of vessel that has a wider opening, because this won't sit in a bottle like the other one. And I will just put this in, wedge it as best I can so it doesn't fall into the water. And this one will do fine also. They are resilient. I mean, as soon as they start growing their crown, because the roots are usually the first thing you'll see, then you'll start to see the little leaves start to poke through, and they can be submerged under the water. They do fine. But as soon as they start to grow a little tiny crown, aside from just leaves, it's always best to take the leaf part, the crown, out of the water, and then they'll start to really take off, like these guys did. I have enough roots in this one as well to start feed. So, everybody loves Miracle-Gro, so do I. This is a cool feed, especially for African violets because it's for blooming houseplants. One thing just to be careful of is a lot of these fertilizers are not good in a hydroponic setup because a lot of them require a bacteria to break down the composition of the elements in order for it to be absorbable by the roots, especially if it's just in water. In soil, those bacteria exist. In water, they don't. So I prefer to use hydroponic fertilizer because it's the bare elements that don't need to be broken down. Of course, these, if you don't use too much of them, they're fine to use. They may not be getting everything that they need from it if they're not being broken down. So I would mix and match. 1 week I give one feed, the next week I give the other. But it doesn't seem to be harming the plant. As long as you don't use too much of the fertilizer, then it'll burn the roots. I have another example here of a very early stage. Oh no, this one isn't the very early stage. This one is a little bit younger of a propagated leaf. You can see there is one crown there, I think. Yeah, possibly two. Looks like there's like an offshoot there. But you can see the roots are kind of big. No feed yet. I want a little bit more of a root system, and I want a few more leaves. But this one has just been in water. And the great part about this is you can forget about it for a while. I love water propagating and water culture because you don't have to constantly remember, oh, I got to water the plants. That's one thing that's a thorn in my side because when you have too many plants, I don't want to say too many, when you have so many plants, it becomes a challenge to make sure that they're all watered. Water culture solves that problem. Let me see if there is, I had another propagated leaf that had, oh, here it is. That has a little tiny baby. This is very early stages. This leaf was in just a little shot glass of water. And the roots started out, and from the roots came, I don't know if you could see, is it, okay. Oh, it's a little blurry. Hold on a second. There we go. Let me put my finger over here. From the roots came a little plant. You see it right there at the end? It's still a little blurry. Anyway, you can see what I mean. Very early stages. I need more of a crown. I need more leaves. Once I get more leaves, at that point, those roots will probably be about 1 inch long. I'll start the feed. I'll find a vessel and prop it up and get it ready to go. So yeah, that's how I do this. Again, everybody's got their own method to propagating African violets. I do it also in soil sometimes. I do it in perlite sometimes, sphagnum moss as well. But the water propagation for me is always the easiest. It's always the best under the circumstances of not having to water all the plants. So I definitely recommend it if you want to experiment. I'd say, I'm not going to tell you, oh, this is what you should do, but I'm definitely going to say experiment a little bit. I love experimenting with plants, especially with African violets, because they're very easy plants they're tough, you know what I mean? Like if you screw something up, you can always cut off a leaf or two and you'll have that leaf insurance to be able to propagate. But they also bounce back. If you, like there was a time when I would be propagating a leaf and it was in a much smaller vessel. This is a tall, I don't know what you'd call this. I guess it's kind of like a shot glass. It was in a very small, even smaller than this. It was a shot glass that was smaller than this. Oops, this fell over. And let me get this guy out before I forget. Yeah, this one needs to be put in a different situation. I was using a much smaller shot glass than this one, so the water dried up and the leaf started to wilt and the roots, some of them started to die because they were drying up. I obviously saw it and I freaked out, and I watered it, I cleaned it off onto the sink, and it started to grow new roots again, and it took over where it left off with the crown. So they're tough. They're tough little plants. I adore them, and obviously they can learn to adore their water culture setup. It's just so pretty. I love these plants so much. Anyway, that is the update. This one's going to be so exciting when you see these open. So pretty. Yeah, so if you have any questions on this, as usual, leave a comment below. And I know a lot of you are experimenting on your own with water culture and your violets. I love to see pictures. If you guys want to send me pictures, I'll send you an email address. You can send me your pictures. I just love to see progress. But if you're not going to send pictures, just let me know how it's going. And if you have any challenges, I will do my best to help you. If this is something you're interested in doing, I have been doing this now for many months. Not quite a year yet, but many months of actually completely growing African violets in water culture. And I've been transferring everything to water culture. I have a Rex begonia in water culture, same setup. It's got the inch of air for oxygenating the roots. This plant never even wilted, and it's just taken off and doing extremely well. And Rex begonias obviously don't need, they're not really here to bloom, so you don't have to give this one bright light. It'll just keep throwing out the beautiful leaves. Yeah, and I also, just today actually, I don't know how this is going to do because I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I have a pansy that I got because it's pansy season. And I put the beautiful pansy, look at this color on the flower, my goodness. I put this pansy into water culture as well. Those roots are beautiful. Look at that. This looks like healthy water culture African violet roots. That's what they end up looking like. But this is, it didn't even wilt. It's doing really well. Again, I just did this today, so we'll see how this looks in maybe a week or two. But yeah, I mean, this is not my type of plant because, you know, I think they're very pretty. I mean, look, that flower's gorgeous, but I'm a African violet, orchid, and Coleus kind of guy. So we'll see how this does, though. I just think it's a cool experiment, another experiment with water culture. Anyway, like I was saying, if you have any questions or if you want to share your experiences, if you are transferring your violets to water culture, please reach out. I love to hear about it. I love to see pictures, all that good stuff. If you like this content and you haven't already, please consider subscribing because I love this little family that's starting to grow here in this channel. And share with your friends, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video.